welcome everyone. My name is Stephen Goldberg of Optimus Performance. And as you can see, I'm very pleased today to have a guest interviewee, guest expert, Donnie Boivin. And Donnie, I'm going to read a little bit of his bio, is a highly successful entrepreneur, author, and podcaster. As the CEO of 3 companies, Success Champion Networking, Badass Business Summit, and Champions Table Mastermind, he is a proven leader in the business community. Donnie's passion is to help as many people as possible to achieve freedom through building a successful business. He believes that the path to financial and personal freedom lies in entrepreneurship and is dedicated to helping others achieve that freedom. He invites anyone looking to take their business to the next level to join the Champions 90 Challenge at champions90.com and start their journey to success today. So anyone who wants to be successful in their own business, and of course, there's tons of business startups every day. Welcome, Donnie. Thank you for joining me. And I'm looking forward to hearing and learning from you as well. Now, I mentioned that there's tons of business startups every day. We're in a big world with lots of people. But every time I go to statistics on business success, it seems that 90% almost of startups fail within the first 5 years. And I've read that when I first got into this field more than 25 years ago, and I read it again recently, and a lot of it is due to poor management, bad financial decisions, and I'm excited to hear about how you help your clients solve that problem. So maybe start and explain to us, who are your typical clients for this 90-day Champion 90 Challenge opportunity?
So I will, and let me back up 2 seconds and just say that the reason I think most businesses fail is because they throw in the towel way too early. Because the only people that find success in business are those of us who are too dumb to quit. Like when it got to the point where you should have said, I'm out of this thing, I'm not going to do it anymore, we should have probably thrown in the towel, but we persevered through it. And that's how we figured it out. And I think that's just what happens to most people, is it gets so hard that they decide to quit and they don't go. All the magic and learning comes when you get past that moment and actually get after it and continue forward. Most people want to go back to start over. And that's why you'll see so many people start 12, 13 different businesses trying to figure out which business is going to be the one, is because they never are willing to go through the hard stuff to actually get where they need to go.
So let me ask you a question. Let me just interrupt you 1 second. So do you think that a lot of people that embark on entrepreneurship or to start their own business shouldn't be doing that at all, because they don't have that quality of not being able to give up or not giving up, that persistence, and they shouldn't have gotten into it in the first place?
I don't want to say they shouldn't have gotten into it in the first place, but I think they didn't like the person they finally met when things got really, really hard. I mean, my own story is, 6 months of running my business, I almost lost my farm. My wife's car was repossessed, and my wife had to go cash in her freaking 401k to save all this. At that same time, I was offered a multi-6-figure vice president of sales job that I could go and jump in right now. So I had a choice of, do I figure out how to be a business owner, or I go back and try and, just put a Band-Aid on it and go to work. I chose to stay fighting and duking it out, not because I thought I was made for this, and not because I'd ever done anything this crazy in my life, but because the idea of going back to work for somebody else was soul crushing to me. And I'm like, there's just so many people have done it before me. There's got to be a way. And it was the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. When you get to a place when you actually truly run out of your own excuses, You meet the person in the mirror, because when you work for other people, it's really easy to go, well, the economy sucks, so that's affecting my business. Sales sucks because we're not getting enough leads. The business not growing. We're not getting enough marketing, right? We can blame everybody else. When you own a business, there's nobody left to blame. The sales down, go sell more. Marketing sucks, go fix some marketing. The economy sucks, go figure out how to pivot and move around it. And most people, when they get to that point, that's really hard, instead of putting their head down and getting after it, they actually turn out. So it's not a matter of should they or should they not do it. It's a matter of, are they willing to meet themselves? Because when there's no excuses left, you actually see what you're made of. Mm-hmm. And most people don't like that version of themselves because it's just put on a highlight reel.
When you see they don't like that version of themselves, do you mean like they don't like the negative part of themselves, the negative talk that kind of interferes with them doing what they need to do?
They don't like the perceived negativeness of this, because truly, I'll tell my story. For 20 years, I thought I was kicking ass and taking names and doing the right things. But what really was happening is I was half-assing it my entire life and not putting in all the work and time I could. And this put me in the place to really highlight that I hadn't actually tried to get after it in life. I've never put myself in a position where I had to or was going to go for it. I always kind of figured it out, and that was one of my common phrases of, oh, don't worry about it. I'll always figure it out. It's never get bad enough that I can't figure it out. And it's always that figuring it out that screws everything up, because instead of going and stopping it from happening again, you just continue to figure it out. So what they don't like is they get to that point where it gets so damn hard that they realize that they've never done anything to push themselves beyond their own personal limits. And that's what they hate. Because you're on display. You got to go look at the dude in the mirror and see that you have not done the things. I mean, we all have this internal voice inside of us that will let us know when we're doing the right things and the wrong things. So the day I told my wife that, we were about to lose everything, that night I went up to the mirror, and I'm telling you, I couldn't look myself in the eyes. I was ashamed of how I was showing up. And so I tried to say the words, "I'm proud of you." And I'm like, nope, I'm not proud of this guy. And that's the kind of things that I'm talking about is people aren't leaning in on who they actually are. But I started going back to the mirror every day and saying, "I'm proud of you." And this is where it gets fun. Every time I did that, something else would pop up that I wasn't proud of. That became the thing I had to go work on. That became the thing I had to go do or fix. And every time I fixed whatever, or I went and worked on whatever, like if I wasn't selling, that was the thing I worked on. If marketing wasn't working right, I went and worked on that. The company started turning around because I started actually doing the things I had to do, the things that sucked, the things I didn't want to do. I had to do those things, and that's what allowed me to push forward. But people don't want to do those things.
Right. So how does someone who's started a business, maybe they have a great service solution that they want to put out there, they've brought it to the point where they're putting it out in the market, or a new product, and they hit these roadblocks like what you're talking about, and a lot of it is just they're not doing what they need to do to overcome those roadblocks. So how do they identify what's holding them back and then find the solutions? Can enough people do that on their own, or do they think they need help with that?
Well, I mean, everybody could use help, but I think they can do it on their own. So one, to identify it, go to the mirror. I mean, immediately, if you're honest with yourself, when you say, "I'm proud of you," whatever pops up, you can lie to yourself, but what's the point? Whatever pops up when you look yourself dead in the eyes and say, "I'm proud of you," that's the thing you got to go work on. So if your sales suck, go work on sales. I mean, selling's easy. Nobody has a sales problem. They have a business development problem, right? Because most people, if you get them into a good conversation with somebody, the sale is going to happen. It's going to be a good conversation. It's getting to that damn conversation everybody sucks at. So if you suck at sales, aim for 1,000 sales calls. Like, get into 1,000 conversations with people that can say yes to you. You can't help but learn a sales process and system and without having those 1,000 freaking conversations. I talked to a guy today. He said he learned how to do telesales because he figured that, you know, he needed to do 200 dials a freaking day. So he just committed to doing 200 dials a day and became the number one sales guy in his freaking company by doing it, you know. So it's all those icky things that people don't want to do is the things you don't want to do. If you suck at your own personal business finance, go freaking study finance. Go find people that will teach finance. Shit, YouTube's there all over the place. You can get a whole university on YouTube and all this stuff. You know, if you suck at the operational things, go study the operational things and go to work on them. The goal is not to become the expert in all that stuff. The goal is to get good enough that you can make enough money to hire and bring in the experts that will then push you to that next level. And that's the answer most times is you can only get you so far. Those experts that are experts in their field and everything else, those are the people that are going to push you up to that next tier, that next level. And people won't do the front end work so they can get to that second end work.
Well, I think that's one of the big challenge is getting to the point where you can bring in that expertise that can do a lot of the stuff that you just mentioned, whether it's operations or finance, better than you. But a lot of people never make it to that point. They just stumble at trying to do everything themselves. So what kind of solution with your program, the Champions 90 Challenge, do you propose to help them get over that obstacle?
For sure. So, sometime the end of last year, I was putting on a lot of weight and I decided I needed to cut some weight. So I don't work out. I'm not one of those big meathead guys. I started walking my farm and I take my German Shepherds out. I'd let them loose out on the farm and then I would go walk gate to gate every morning. Well, during that morning walk, I'd listen to a business or growth oriented podcast. During that time, what I found was I was diagnosed with ADHD last year. And so I found that I have to be distracted to learn. Well, that podcast was distracting enough that I could focus on the business. And over about 30 days with a couple of other activities, we added a huge amount of revenue to the company because I was able to laser focus on the business. So what the Champions 90 Challenge is designed to do is to get people into the right business development activities so they can actually grow their business. So it's 5 quick activities. You're going to walk. That's all I do, 45 minutes a day. During that walk, you're going to listen to a growth or business-oriented podcast. You're going to do then 30 minutes of cold reach outs. I don't care if that's cold calling. I don't care if that's cold DMing on LinkedIn. I don't care if that's, door knocking, right? 30 minutes of cold outreach. You're going to do 30 minutes of hand-raising activities. The hand-raising activities is anywhere you can put out original thought or content where people can raise their hand and say, I'm interested and want to know more. So that can be putting out social content. That can be commenting on other people's posts. That can be getting on podcasts, getting on stages. And then the final thing you're going to do is you're going to write 200 words on your takeaways from the podcast. And what happens is those 200 words then become your social content out there to help you get some more social content going. But those 5 activities done on a consistent basis for 90 days, and you go 90 days, no quit. If you miss a day, you start the hell over. And the reason we did that is because people just haven't learned to be disciplined in the activities that will actually grow their business. They have learned to always get by with good enough. This pushes you past good enough because in 90 days, you're going to probably have family vacations come up. You're going to have a party with the friends come up. You're going to have all these opportunities that have a chance to derail and interrupt you. And the whole point of this game is that, yes, it's going to grow your business if you do all activities for 90 straight days, but it's the mental upgrade you need to do this consistently and on a regular basis.
That's a nice kind of like a recipe for success for today's world to grow your business. I like it. Do you have like some examples of people that have gone through this? And the transformation. I love transformation stories.
For sure. If people go to LinkedIn and just type in #Champions90, you'll see a ton of them. But some of my favorite ones is Carrie Seagard, an attorney up out of New Hampshire. was building a really cool law practice, had several lawyers underneath her, but she was practicing all these kind of different forms of laws. After she went through the Champions 90, she got dialed in on one particular area of law and went after the patents and IP law. And she actually was able to bring on 3 or 4 more attorneys because she got so disciplined in doing the business development activities and working on herself. It really got her to scale and grow. There was a photographer in Texas named Matt, and Matt was doing family headshots and like high school pictures, not doing very, very well. Through the Champions 90 challenge, he figured out that he should go after weddings, more specifically Catholic weddings, and got himself really niched into this Catholic weddings. And now he's booked out almost every weekend now doing these huge monstrous weddings because became known as the Catholic photographer and really started blowing up and getting his business great. I think, and I don't want to speak for sure, but I think he lost 25 pounds along the way from doing all the walks too. There was Jeff out of Nashville. Jeff, his business was on the rocks. He wasn't doing the business development activities. His business is now doing multiple 6 figures and going. Wasn't directly after the 90 days that happened, but he kept doing the activities after the 90 days, and that's what allowed him to go. So tons of people that have found success by getting through it. With, once again, it teaches you the discipline to do the things you need to do.
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, I could really easily identify with the benefits because actually just before this call, I had come in with a walking my dog, which I do every day around noon for about 45 minutes. And every day I listen to a podcast with some business aspect to it. And it's amazing how it just rejuvenates your business thinking and gives you some ideas that you could right away apply in your business. So I love that part. I also love about, how writing down what you got out of that podcast really solidifies it into your thinking, and having it that way, you could publish it. It's fantastic. So it's a really nice recipe. Maybe just repeat it again, the key points.
Yeah, for sure. So, and people can go to champions90.com to find the outlines as well. But you're going to do 45 minutes walk, 45-minute listen to a growth or business-oriented podcast, 30 minutes cold outreach activities. So that's cold calling, cold emailing, cold DMing on LinkedIn. You're going to do 30 minutes of hand-raising activities, which could be networking. Could be commenting on other people's posts. It can be putting out your own original content. It can be guesting on podcasts. And then you can write 200 words. The way I write the 200 words is during every podcast I listen to, I get one aha, right? I'll get something like, oh, I needed to hear that. On my phone, I have a notepad that's called Walking Thoughts. I will quickly, during my walk, go in and type in that thought so I remember it. I try to do audio messages, but it just screws up my head too much. So I had to write them down, right? So I write them down. I then come back and my 200 words is that takeaway. And then it's me wrapping my head around what that takeaway means and how do I use it. And that gets me my 200 words. And you do that every day. When you post out, and you don't have to post out your 200 words, but you got to post every day. And on that posting out, you put hashtag C90 day 1, C90 day 2, C90 day 3, so people know what day you're on and what cheer you on to keep you going. And it's worked really, really well for thousands across the country so far.
Well, I think it's great. I mean, one of the keys to business is to be consistent in practicing success activities. And that's really what you're introducing. And if you do it on a consistent basis and you keep improving on it, you're just going to get better and drive better results. So it's really great. And, I think that's one of the things that really stands in the way to a lot of small micro startups is sales, is not building the revenue, because you can't bring in other people. Even if you put a lot of money into the business, if you don't have revenue coming in, you're going to run out of cash, you're going to run out of money, and your business is going to die. So you have to have a plan. with revenue generation, and the business owner has to be the salesperson to start, and you have to know how to sell, and it sounds like you're helping people do that. So when they join your program, I mean, you just gave away the ingredients.
So Champions 90 is completely free. So we're not
Really?
even selling anything with that program. Nope. We give that away. We just want that one. My biggest mission in life and my biggest purpose is to help as many people get to freedom through building a business.
Okay.
Let me tell you, when I almost lost my business, that sucked. Right? I made myself an island because I didn't want people to know how bad business is. So Champions 90, that's free. There's no cost. There's no thing. There's support groups and things out there that go along with it, but there's no upsell. There's no anything there. We have other programs that will offer, with Success Champion networking and the like, but Champions 90 is literally our gift to the world to say, we're with you. We're in this thing together. Let's go build businesses together. Let's collaborate. And the stories of people that are going through Champions 90 that have partnered up as accountability partners and the like have been absolutely amazing. Fantastic. This is literally our.
How do you then generate revenue for your own business? Because you can't just keep giving it away unless you have a.
Oh, for sure. So we have Success Champions Networking, which is a peer mastermind organization where we bring small business owners together to collaborate. The main focus there is to grow businesses. So that costs $47 a month for a 12-month package. And you're going to get a lot of peer mastermind stuff and happen to get some networking with it. We have Champions Table Mastermind, which is strictly a mastermind where we bring in groups of small business owners based on the revenue that they have. And we take them through a program that actually helps them to grow, set them up so they can actually scale their businesses. We then also have the Badass Business Summit, which is an annual summit that we do in September in Fort Worth, Texas every year, where we have speakers flying from all over the North America at this point. 3 days. We have huge, the whole conference is set around the idea of let's get your business growing. So it's a full hands-on working summit. I mean, you're not going to take a whole bunch of notes and then try and go home and figure out what the hell you wrote down. You're working on your business right then and there. So it's firing off by the time you leave.
Which month is it?
So that's in September 20th through the 24th this year. Badassbusinesssummit.com for that one.
Cool. Excellent. So I'm going to put links to all that in the notes section or description if you're watching this as a video or podcast. And then whoever's interested could check that out. But I think everybody should at least start with the 90 challenge at champions90.com. It sounds that in itself is a great tool that everybody could benefit and develop better success habits for sure. Excellent.
I think so. It's been a lot of fun to put together, and the feedback and the emails and the messages of people going through it's been pretty awesome, pretty rewarding actually.
When did you start off on this path? How long ago did you get going?
September of last year. We launched it at the Badass Business Summit last year. Okay. So I did all the walks and everything about 30 days leading up to the summit. So I got to actually stand on stage and say, look, I lost 35 pounds. This is the amount. I don't remember the number of revenue. This is how much revenue we've added to the bottom line. This is the infrastructure we added. So we were able to really show all the things that came from just 30 days at that point. And I was like, who's going to run with me for another 90? Mm-hmm. And we had 150 attendees and 95% of them signed up for the challenge. Mm. I don't know how many percentage completed it, right. But a lot of people signed up.
Put it out there and you made it available, and it's up to people to do, to apply it and do what they 100%. Want. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, Donnie, it's been a pleasure. Is there something I should have asked you that I didn't that you'd like to share?
No, I think, only thing that I want people to know, there was not a specific question, is that the people who do find success are crazy ones that continue to push through. You can't just keep slamming your head against the wall. You actually have to push through, which means you got to go screw things up, learn what you screwed up, fix that, and then go again. This is the idea of failing forward, right? People always talk about fail to win and all that crap. It just annoys the hell out of me. It's really about failing on purpose, meaning trying something that you know you should be doing, screwing that up, doing that over again, applying the learnings, doing that over again, and doing this is why I say do 1,000 sales calls and you'll figure out how to sell. This is the game of repetition and learning from those things. But guys, I'll tell you, if you listen to me this far and got any tips or tricks out of this particular video or podcast, do Stephen a favor and share this episode out with one person. Having my own podcast, Growth Mode, I can tell you the toughest thing in the world is building an audience. And if you'll share this episode or one of his other episodes out with somebody who needs to hear this message, it'll mean the world to him and it'll help him get his message out to more people.
Great. Well, I can validate what you're saying, because when I started on my own in this field more than 25 years ago, I really had no training for it, no experience, other than I had hired a trainer to help me in my business. And I got so much out of it that I decided to get into this field. And it was really tough because I had a family, a wife, 2 kids to support. I had no revenue. And I saw other people around me that were trying to do the same thing, and they would just be dropping off. And somehow I had this incredible drive to continue. And I would just sit there every day making cold call after cold call, getting rejection, going out, meeting people, and finally landing my first contract. And that was like the best day of my life, because it just
sure.
gave me the confidence to just keep going. And, so I know what you're talking about. I've been through it, and definitely it works. I know what you're saying. So I really appreciate you sharing that and doing what you're doing. Thank you. And I'm going to look at your programs, and maybe I'm going to join in as well. So it's fantastic.
That'd be awesome, bud.
And so for those new to the channel, if you haven't already subscribed, do so now. Turn on that notification bell so you get news of new videos. Check out the other guest expert interviews on the channel. There's a bunch of them. And you could also check out the articles in the blog section of my website. I also have free tools to help you in management that you could download for free. Thank you all for listening. Thank you again, Donnie, for being here. And we'll talk again soon.